amazing would it be to get into a time machine and go and talk to people from the past? Sadly, time machines have not been invented yet, but we can do this with time capsules. These hidden capsules can contain amazing secrets and mysteries, from lost treasures worth millions, to scary secrets that can change the world's history. Steve Jobs' time capsule. In 1983, there was a large tech conference in Aspen. During the conference, they decided to bury a time capsule. The capsule was called "The Future Isn't What It Used to Be." Many amazing things from the 1980s were put in the time capsule, and even Steve Jobs, the creator of Apple, contributed a mouse he was using at the time. But in the year 2000, when they went to dig it up, they couldn't find it. This was surprising, as the time capsule was a large 13-foot long tube. The exact location was actually found 13 years later in 2013. But when they finally cracked it open, they found some amazing things inside. There were many very nostalgic things from the 80s. There was a Rubik's Cube and even a recording of the Moody Blues. Among the capsule, there was also over 1,000 other items. And of course, Steve Jobs' mouse. They even found a 6-pack of beer for the workers who dug the thing up, although I'm not sure if I would drink decades-old beer. Amazingly, the 80s time capsule was found by mistake. It was only found because the US TV show Diggers was filming in the area. They were excavating around and found the lost time capsule. Detroit Century Box. 100 years ago, people assumed that we would have flying cars, but the only flying car we actually have is floating in a SpaceX rocket ship. But amazingly, a time capsule from over 100 years ago was found recently. The Detroit Century Box was buried in 1900 to celebrate the turn of the century. On December 31st, 2000, it was dug up. Inside were predictions of the future from the most prominent people in science and business in Detroit. Some of the predictions did come true. For example, they predicted we would find a way to turn our trash into energy. Of course, this now happens thanks to gasification. But there were also many predictions which thankfully did not come true. For example, they said it was only a matter of time before America took over Canada. Thankfully though, the US did not invade Canada. They also predicted flying cars, which again, we do not yet have. Can someone get onto that already? Asylum time capsule. One of the scariest places you can imagine is
Build custom industrial machines in days.
Is an abandoned mental asylum, and that's what makes this time capsule all the more creepy. It was buried in 1958, but in 2015, workers found the time capsule in the abandoned asylum. Inside was a videotape which contained very scary messages from doctors who worked there.
The things that are going to be
Sadly, some parts of the audio is unintelligible because it's so old, but at one point you can hear them talking about techniques they use on patients. The doctors reference electroshock therapy. Of course, we know this is very damaging and actually does not help. The doctors in the video even pondered, saying, "I wonder how much of this will still be relevant in the future." Thankfully not much, as we no longer use electroshock therapy. They later go on to mention something even scarier. They say that they've been using insulin shock therapy on patients. This involves giving the patients large doses of insulin. They then go into a coma-like state for many weeks. Back then, this was cutting-edge medical technology, but today this is considered barbaric and ridiculous. It's scary that these two doctors were doing such terrible things while recording this video, but it's also amazing to look back on the progress we've made when it comes to medicines. 8113 time capsule. It's no secret that people many years ago made time capsules for us now. But what about a time capsule which can't be opened even today? Well, something like this exists, and it's known as the Crypt of Civilization. That's an awesome name, but it has an even more awesome story to it. It was first created in 1936. Thornwell Jacobs, the professor, created the time capsule, and he wanted 6,177 years to pass before anyone opens it. That's because that's the same distance of time from 4241 BC to 1936. 4241 BC, of course, being the first fixed year in history. That is when the Egyptian calendar began. That means we can only open this time capsule in the year 8113. This is a long time away, and our civilization will be so advanced. So that's why Jacobs wanted to make sure that no future humans would not understand. So inside it, he put 640,000 pages of microfilm. He also put in a wind-powered generator, and also another machine for the generator if the microfilm reader breaks. There's also a machine capable of teaching any future human English. That's so that they'll be able to understand the many voice recordings in the time capsule.
Build custom industrial machines in days.
This includes world leaders like Stalin and Winston Churchill, and also cartoon characters, for example Bugs Bunny and Popeye the Sailor. There's also creepy mannequin statues in the time capsule, which is bound to confuse any future humans. Cake capsule. In 2013, a couple were renovating a home in Niagara Falls. That's when they found a mysterious time capsule from the year 1948. When they cracked it open, they were expecting to find some amazing treasures, maybe some artifacts from 1948, or perhaps some writings or even gold and money. Inside, they did find just that. But they also found some more unusual items. This included newspapers from 1948 as well as postcards. There were also papers with writings about recent news in Niagara Falls. And inside, wrapped in some wax paper, was a slice of cake. Of course, it had gone moldy and they could not eat it today. The cake was probably from the time capsule sealing ceremony, and I imagine someone who had too much to drink at the party put some cake in the time capsule. Frankly, I'm kind of curious to find out what a 65-year-old piece of cake would taste like. Pennsylvania Armory time capsule. Did you know that Google once helped an army colonel find a time capsule? One day, Colonel Michael Konsman was doing some research on the 13th Regiment of the National Guard. This was the precursor to his 55th Brigade in Scranton, Pennsylvania. When he was researching on Google though, he found some amazing information. Using an online archive, he found a small note saying that in 1900 a time capsule had been buried in the cornerstone. Sure enough, him and a team of soldiers went out to the cornerstone of the base. They then unearthed a copper box. This contained lots of unknown historical information about their brigade. It also had an old cigar all the way from 1900. Colonel Michael said, "Many say that there's bad things on the internet, but if you use it for the right reasons, then you'll find some amazing things." Michael, I could not agree with you more. The National Guardsmen deemed the time capsule as priceless. That's because it also contained some artifacts and old coins, which are probably worth a lot of money. Oldest American time capsule. To even qualify as such, every time capsule has to be pretty old. But what was found inside the oldest American time capsule? This time capsule almost was not ever opened. That's because they simply get lost under decades and decades of dirt and nature. But in some lucky cases, they're accidentally rediscovered. That's exactly what.
You know when you're getting ready in the morning and you wash your face, and then you need to brush your teeth, but your face is still wet? Well,
what happened to America's oldest time capsule? It was buried all the way back in 1795, only 19 years after the USA was even founded. It was buried by Paul Revere, the American Revolutionary. But because it was buried in the cornerstone of the Massachusetts State House, it was lost. That's because 100 years later, lots of things were added on to the structure. But in 2014, a broken water pipe meant that workers had to crack it open. And that's when they found this amazing forgotten time capsule. The metal box weighed around 10 pounds and had lots of amazing things inside it. This included 23 coins with the head of George Washington. There were also 5 newspapers and one 1652 silver coin. This meant that people likely hid it from the British monarchy back in the day. Oldest message in a bottle. Putting a message in a bottle and letting it float out to sea is a classic thing to do, maybe even a cliche. But most of these are never found again as they're simply lost in the sea, which covers most of the earth. But in 2018, the oldest message in a bottle ever was found. It was washed up on a beach in Australia, and it turned out to be 132 years old. The bottle was actually part of a German experiment to track shipping routes. And I guess that also makes it the longest experiment in history. Confederate capsule. Recently in the USA, many statues are being removed. This